Welcome to the One Step Ahead series, part storytelling, part podcast, and entirely a celebration. This project is a way to honor the wise beings and medicines that serve us in creating a life that is aligned with the unique beings we are, and the values that connect us to ourselves, to others, to our precious planet, and energies in the universe. You're invited to share in the intimate conversations that arise when we ponder and explore the questions: what does living in alignment feel like? What does it look like? How do we find our way, and who are the guides that can help us discover and deepen our understanding of ourselves? If you're a curious seeker, if you've known that something about your circumstances is not quite the right fit and wondered, what else is there? This is a place to open, expand, and explore. One step ahead of our past, of where we've been, one step closer to where we want to be, where we're meant to be, finding alignment. Always, still, putting one foot in front of the other. Hi, friends. Welcome to everybody who happens to find their way to this recording, to the One Step Ahead series. We've been busy putting finishing touches on the first few episodes, and I realized that there's some little gaps that I thought might be helpful to fill in. This series, it's a limited series. It was always intended to be a limited series. We may create more moving forward. At this time, we've got plans laid out for a year, for the next 12 months, about 8 episodes per season. And season is being used very intentionally. I'm going to get to that. I first had the idea to create a limited recording, a limited series, a limited place for discussion, probably about 3 years ago. When I was working for government, I had been way down the rabbit hole of government. And I was starting to feel really riled up about the bureaucracy of government, of so many of the systems that we're trying to make the most of. And we're grateful for the services that we do have. And there are a lot of flaws. And it was a bit of a bee in my bonnet, to overuse the phrase. I was compelled to show up on camera and to have conversations to really help raise awareness about how broken things were. And then my life blew up, quite literally. The human that I was closest to throughout I would say my whole lifetime. We knew each other from the time that we were 5. We met in kindergarten, although we didn't become close until we were in high school together after some, small town dramas. But we became really close, strangely close. If you were to ask anybody who knew us in high school, we did everything together. We were attached at the hip. We jokingly described ourselves as being codependent, joking, not joking. We knew that it was very literal. And it also helped others kind of understand a little bit about the nature of our relationship. My soul sister, my twin flame, my Jessa, passed away suddenly and unexpectedly in November of 2022. Just a few weeks actually after we had finally decided that we were going to do our own thing. We were going to find a way of creating and sharing with the world in a way that we could provide for ourselves, that we could generate income, and we were going to do things on our own terms, working on things that we enjoyed working together. That didn't happen. And so life took it didn't take a bit, it took a very different course. And throughout 2023, I took a leave of absence from my government job. And initially it was a requirement because I just was incapable of showing up and doing the work that was expected of me. I was very deep in the grieving process, and I really honored that, and I made space for that. There was a lot of quiet time, and there was a lot of time spent exploring, really trying anything and everything that came my way that suggested that it might be able to help soothe my being that had been challenged for as long as I can remember. Coming out the end of 2023, I was filled with tremendous gratitude for the circles of humans that I had been gently steered towards. Thank you, universe. Thank you, angels. Whatever we want to call it. I met a whole lot of really incredible women who are doing mighty, mighty work to not so much heal beings in the world, although it certainly feels a lot like healing, but really tending to the hurts in the world and holding space for the people who hurt in the world and sharing with them tools and strategies to hold space for what's going on inside and also to move the energy that gets stuck inside, and with the movement of that energy and releasing that energy from the body, really propelling people who worked with them to move forward in the world and to expand who they are in all of the best, beautiful ways. And then the idea came back to me. I really want to talk about things. I really want to share stories and have these really rich conversations with people. And that's where the One Step Ahead series came in. And for quite a while, it was just a little bit of a daydream. And then I started talking about it and sharing the idea. And one of the beautiful humans who came my way during 2023, and someone that I look up to tremendously and someone who I really just love having good conversations with, is Sabrina Shivitz. And I mentioned it to Sabrina. Actually, I think she maybe suggested to me that we do something, get together and record something and share it out on social. And I was like, oh, this sounds good. I'm just going to throw this idea out there. And so I mentioned to her what I've been thinking about, and she loved the idea. And when I asked her if she might be interested in collaborating, she very eagerly and generously accepted my invitation to do that. And we talked about all of the potential guests that we might want to have on, that we might want to speak with. And I shared with her the theme I had in mind of really highlighting and celebrating the humans, the practitioners that I have been working with. Really women that I credit, well, in a lot of ways, my being able to show up here in this way today as I am, feeling calm but excited, feeling well, feeling well. That says a lot. You'll hear more about that as the episodes go along. But before we dive into those really beautiful conversations with my guests, and the first one is actually an introduction to the project with just Sabrina and I sharing some conversation. And then we get to bring in my dear friend, Eileen March. Eileen graciously signed up to be an advisor for the project. As I was building out my topics and breaking things into bite-sized manageable pieces, what can we create and release bit by bit throughout the year? I started to tune in a little bit myself and wonder about how each of the different healing modalities, most of them I would say are considered kind of alternative healing modalities, they have their own energy about them. Some are more reflective, some are more active, some fall anywhere in between. And Eileen teaches beautifully about the energies of the seasons. She speaks about cyclical living and helps us learn how to, as much as we can, moment by moment and day by day, depending on the seasons that are moving within our own body, how we can work with the seasons in nature. So she's going to join us to really highlight the energies of all four seasons throughout the year. And with each season of episodes, she's going to provide a little bit of context setting before we start exploring the different topics that are coming up with our different speakers. I also wanted to credit Eileen a little bit with the title of the series, One Step Ahead. Jess and I always used to say to each other, often when we were commiserating, wondering why and what's the purpose, we would remind each other, and I can still hear Jess clear as a bell saying, we just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And as long as you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you're doing it. Your life. This is life. Mm. And then I learned from Eileen, because I'm not a mama myself, but Eileen is a trained midwife. And she described the birthing process as 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And throughout that process, there's always this progression of 1 step ahead, 1 step ahead. And to me, that kind of echoes life in a lot of ways. I mean, I think we're having a really good day if we're taking 2 steps forward and just 1 step back. So often for me, it has felt like maybe I take 2 steps forward and 10 steps back, 7 steps forward and 3 steps back. And so it hasn't really felt like there's a healthy progression. I've felt like I've been really struggling to move forward when I set my sights on something or had a wish to accomplish something. I'm deliberately not using the word moving towards my dreams or having goals, because that's still actually relatively new to me. This learning how to dream and then establishing goals to help get us there. And I really just love that, from the moment we arrive on the planet, our mamas are teaching us, you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And it's in the taking a step back. There's so much rich sweetness in that, because that's where we soften. That's where we take a moment to relax. That's where there's space to reflect and be with ourselves before we continue moving forward with our actions with each step, right? And so I just wanted to give a little bit of context, a little bit of background, so that folks who arrive in this space, and I really hope people find their way here. I'm trusting that whoever is meant to be here will be here. I thank you. And I just wanted to offer the invitation to keep an eye out for the different guests, the different episodes, the different healing modalities that we talk about. And Sabrina's going to teach us a little bit about the niggle in our first episode. But when you feel the niggle, or when you feel a little bit of a pull to something, or maybe there's a topic that comes up and something in your being is particularly curious to keep listening, I really encourage you to honor that, to just take a couple of steps forward and then 1 step back and soften into listening to the stories and maybe being touched by a little bit of inspiration. And perhaps, ideally, having your curiosity piqued and choosing to feed your curiosity by following what your being is asking for. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if something comes up that makes you think of a friend or a loved one, thank you for sharing.